to another episode of Curtain Call Conversations. I'm here today with Glenn Adamson, who is returning to the role of Strat in the new 2025 touring production of Bat Out of Hell. How are you today?
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm very well, thank you.
Good. So, I mean, you're returning to this role, which you've done a lot. So, how is it coming back into a show, sort of with a new cast, and how are you all gelling in rehearsal?
Yeah, it's an incredible bunch. It's really nice to have a new, fresh, fun energy in the room and coming back to it and revisiting it. Having been away for a year and a half and doing other things, coming back to this, just remembering how much I loved it and how
Yeah.
the reasons why I was pulled back into the fold is how much I love working with these people. And it's such a great team. So it's so lovely to be back with them all again. And I feel more lucky having stepped away from it for a year and a half,
Hmm.
knowing just how fortunate I am to be a part of it.
Sure. I mean, unfortunately, it's a show that I've never seen, so I'm really excited to see it next year. So, for those like me who have never seen it, could you explain sort of the story of it?
Absolutely. So it's sort of like Peter Pan meets Meatloaf, really. So it's very quintessential Jim Steinman. It's larger than life. You've got all those nods to his music videos throughout the piece, but all set with the undertone of Strat, my character, who is effectively Peter Pan. He can't age past 18.
Okay.
Um, and he meets Raven on her 18th birthday, and she's finally reached the point where if she becomes infected with whatever virus it is that's keeping him stuck at 18, she can't get that now. She's past that point, but they fall in love. And you see the story unfold of how that will unfold now that she is going to age and he
Yeah.
will stay 18 forever, despite the fact, they're madly in love and they choose to be together. And you
Yeah.
have the Lost, like the Lost Boys, and you have Tink, very Tinkerbell,
Okay.
all of those nods to
Yeah.
the original Peter Pan story.
Wow, that sounds brilliant. So, as I say, I can't wait to see it. I mean, the music of Meatloaf is highly iconic, and you get to sing some incredible songs in this show. So, tell me all about your favorite sort of Meatloaf song that you perform in the show.
It's changed throughout the time that I've been a part of it, but it's actually I Do Anything for Love, I
Okay.
think. And it's really because the beginning intro, the dum 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 on the piano, you hear this palpable intake of breath from the audience.
Yeah.
You see people grab each other's legs and go, "It's that one, it's that one." And I've never experienced it in theatre before where you can hear that 1,000 people take a breath at the same time, that
Yeah.
they've waited for it
Yeah.
for so long. So that's become the song that I love to sing
Mm.
and love to be a part of. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the good thing with jukebox musicals as a whole is you get sort of a different audience, don't you? So you'd get Meatloaf fans in, and sort of that introduces them to the world of musical theatre, I guess. I mean, I assume that the audiences are really quite appreciative of the music.
Yeah, they really are. And we always say it's sort of a musical for people that don't like musicals.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't really realize that Jim Steinman wrote this musical back in the 60s. He wrote this
Right.
before the music. That's why the music is so theatrical. He always
Yeah.
intended for it to be in a show. And he actually did an advertisement for it, trying to cast these parts that we play back in the 60s, saying, I don't want musical theatre kids. I want real, like, rock stars. I want to find, and that's where he found Meatloaf,
Wow.
auditioning for that show. And then they thought, let's release this music. Let's
Mm.
and it was born. And now coming back to it and living Jim's dream, finally having this show on stage, it always feels so special.
Yeah, I mean, is rock music sort of important to you? Because I know you've done a few sort of what I would consider rock musicals. I mean, you've been in We Will Rock You, American Idiot, that sort of stuff. Is rock music your thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of a niche I fell into, but bands were my thing growing up and
Okay.
singing with Battle of the Bands and doing those things, but also acting as well at the same time. But I didn't really put them together.
Mm.
That was something I didn't really think possible until I went away to train as an actor. But I went to Paul McCartney's school in Liverpool,
Oh,
and the
wow.
music heritage was so prevalent there, and there was sheet music to Imagine on the walls, the
Wow.
original dots, and you
Yeah.
just absorbed it, and then suddenly you were like doing the two things
Yeah.
and realized I could make a career out of doing both, maybe.
Yeah.
Now it means I'm very niche in terms of the shows that I that want me to be a part of it because I'm not traditional
Yeah.
musical theatre trained, but but yeah, it's definitely where my passion lies. I mean, a Fleetwood Mac musical or a Bon Jovi musical, they're what I'm waiting for to come along.
Wow. Yeah, now you're
I'd
talking.
love
I mean,
those.
we've got all sorts, haven't we, out there at the moment that, there's all sorts of artists that, perhaps are waiting for a jukebox musical. I thought that those are great two choices there.
Yeah.
So obviously this tour is kicking off in January. So you've got, lots and lots of dates throughout next year. So how is touring for you? I mean, do you enjoy it?
I actually love touring. Having worked in the West End and on tour, I find that for tours, the audiences are locals that are really appreciative of what have come. A lot
Mm,
of the West End audience does tend to be tourist driven,
yeah.
that have just picked a show because they want to see a show. Whereas I always
Mm,
feel like people have chosen to come to that local theatre to see this show out of the whole season that they could see. So
yeah.
there is just sort of a different appreciation from it touring. And I do love the idea of the show is so different where it goes.
Mm,
Like this show plays so differently in Scotland to how it plays in Oxford, say, or
okay.
Cheltenham, because
Yeah.
audiences are so different and the tone is so different, and that keeps the show fresh for us. I could tour for years, but I
Okay.
couldn't. I probably couldn't be in the same show in the West End for much longer than a year. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it is nice sort of traveling around, isn't it? And going to places that perhaps you would never visit and seeing different theatres. I mean, it must be lovely. Have you had a favourite venue that you've performed at yet?
Oh, it's a really hard toss up that because there's perks about everywhere you go. This show does so well in Scotland and those audiences so raucous. But
Yeah,
then you've got like when I'll go to Plymouth, there's some places that I absolutely love in the Barbican area.
yeah,
You just come to know all these towns really well, and then you have a really fondness for all of them.
yeah. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to do, isn't it? Going out on tour. And the cast that you've got with you for this particular tour, have you worked with any of them before, or is it just sort of a brand new relationship with them all?
Yeah, well, Katie Tompkinson, who's the new Raven,
Yeah.
she actually did the show with me, but played a different part in the show originally, and has come back and played Raven, and she covered the role, so we went on together in Germany,
Oh, wow.
and I remember at the time thinking she was so sensational, and texting one of the producers saying, "Listen to this," like us singing together, because I just thought she was so talented, and
Yeah,
so having her is really exciting for me as well, because I love singing with her.
yeah.
And then Rob and Sharon, who've been with the show forever, since its conception, they're back as well. So that's amazing. Because when I first joined the show, it wasn't them. So I love having them because they were there from creation. They
Right.
always can fill in the holes for you,
Yeah.
missing links.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wonderful to have that sort of knowledge about the show, I guess, to walk into as well. I mean, so performing for you, you mentioned there a little earlier about the Paul McCartney school and everything. So, sort of at what age did you think I want to do this professionally?
Yeah, I mean, I always try and pinpoint that really because I loved it growing up, and I think because I remember not really fitting in that well at school, but my parents sent me to a youth theatre, and any of my close friends all came from that youth theatre, not my school. And
Yeah.
I really found community there, but I never felt that it was going to be a job. All my family way back in the lines have all worked in education, so I thought,
Mm,
oh, I'll just be a
okay.
teacher. That's what will happen.
Yeah.
And then sort of, I had one drama teacher at school that really believed in me, I think, and he made me feel like I could maybe do it as a career. So I thought I'll give myself a go. I'll apply to these drama schools and I'll see if I get in. If I do, then great. And if I don't,
Yeah.
then I'll look at education. Then sort of I was lucky, I guess. I always think luck plays a huge part of it.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then
absolutely.
suddenly I found myself doing it as a job, but I still think, oh, when does this end? At some point, it must end.
Yeah, it's a dream sort of level, isn't it? I guess when you're doing
Yeah.
something that you absolutely adore to do. I mean, you mentioned they're performing in Germany. So what are audiences like sort of outside of the UK?
Yeah, I mean, I've been really lucky as well to go to Australia twice, both with
Wow.
American Idiot and I went to do the Australasia tour of that and then did that in Australia. And I just love going there. They're
Yeah.
very like the Brits, they love a drink and they love a party.
Yeah.
Germany for us was more reserved actually. Yeah, we took the show and it's very strange because we took it English speaking. So
Mm.
for some of the jokes and things like that, they don't land as
Yeah.
well. But the music they were so game for, and Meatloaf's huge out there. So we
Yeah.
had a great time with that. And I was originally supposed to do the US tour
Oh
of
wow.
bat. That's the first time I got this job, was to go out to the US and join it. But at the time of COVID, it never actually happened, that US tour.
Oh,
Yeah, which is a
oh, that's a
shame.
shame.
One
Yeah.
day maybe.
One day, absolutely. I mean, the audiences clearly really enjoy the show because the buzz when it was announced that it was coming back, sort of, was really quite big. Did you think sort of, you'll have sort of repeat audience members coming to see the show again? Do you have people that you see perhaps in the crowd that you think, oh, they've been to a few shows?
Yeah, we have the most loyal fan base. We have a
Yeah.
really loyal fan base that will come to multiple venues, if not all of them, and you will
Yeah.
see them on the front row. And I actually love that. It's so
Mm,
familiar as well for us. And there's a safety in that when you're on stage. And at the end of Bat Out of Hell, I'm sort of at the front of the stage singing to the audience, and I'm on my
yeah.
knees, and I can see them usually on the first
Yeah.
few rows, just these people that I know. Do you know what? Whatever happens, they love it, and
Yeah.
that's all right. If you're having a day where your voice is tired because you've sang it all week, or and
Yeah.
it's a huge thing, you think, oh no, I can do it for you. Look at that
Yeah.
smile. So it is amazing having that community of fans. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there a hard sing. I mean, yes, absolutely. Rock music, it is hard, isn't it? So how do you protect the voice?
Well, at the moment I've got cold, so I'm going,
Oh
that needs to
no.
go before we open.
Oh wow.
But we have yeah, I mean, just generally you build a stamina for it. The problem with this show mostly is that because people have heard these songs be amazing, we
Yeah.
think, oh, how could we top it? And that's we go, let's be really physical with it. So we do these songs like Upside Down, Crawling Around the Floor. We've got Hanging Off Rocks while
Oh
you're trying to
wow.
sing it upside down. Because we go like, oh, what can we do to make them even more impressive? Well, if
Yeah.
they're a physical challenge as well as a vocal challenge, then
Mm.
people don't need to go and pay to see a Meatloaf tribute. They get
Yeah.
something different. They go like, oh, well, yeah, you could go and hear them sung elsewhere, but here you can see them done differently. So
Yeah.
we've really worked on that. So it's the stamina of those things that can be exhausting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you play an instrument in the show?
No, I don't play
No.
an instrument. The only time I've ever played an instrument on stage was American Idiot. It put me off for life.
Oh no, really? Why?
Well, I'd never quite grasped that. Obviously, when you get nervous, you can still get through everything else. But if it's your hands that become really nervous, which it was for me,
Yeah.
I found myself going out there and I couldn't play. They
Oh
had to turn me
no.
off and get someone from the band to play it the first
Oh,
time I went on because my fingers just wouldn't stop shaking.
oh
So I have
wow.
real respect for sort of those shows where you go and see them when they're on the guitar. I think I don't know how you manage to reach that fine string if you're very nervous.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you sort of still get the nerves like for this show that you've done sort of multiple times? Do you still get nervous?
Yeah, sometimes I think it's got worse actually. I
Oh,
think I've
really?
like put more pressure on myself to deliver. And because I always say you start to learn like you've had the things happen to you that you think will never happen to you, like you've gone out there and forgotten the words suddenly and gone, what are
Yeah.
the words to that? Or you've fallen on that bit, or you've tripped over that motorbike,
Yeah.
you've fallen off it. You start going, oh, I know how wrong this can go, so you're sort of worried
Yeah.
about it. So I do still get really nervous. Yeah, and I imagine for the opening night of this, I'll feel that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, talking about opening night, you open on the 6th of January in Edinburgh. So, obviously, your first sort of favorite sort of place to go, Scotland. You're there
Mm.
for the first stint. Loads of locations across the UK, running through to September next year. Obviously, I really hope it goes well. It's been a pleasure to chat to you.
Oh, lovely
And
to
I'm
meet
sort of
you.
Birmingham based, so when you head my way, I shall definitely be coming
Oh yeah, we'll
to
catch
see
you
the show.
Birmingham, Wolverhampton, Stoke,
That's
whatever,
it.
all of
Yeah,
them.
yeah. I'll be there rocking out with everybody
Look
else. So
forward to
I
seeing
hope it
you.
goes really well and thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye bye.